As a little girl, as I grew up, along the road you could see zebras, you could see buffaloes. But I worry if the future generation, if they will still have this, or will they have to see these animals only when they're caged.
It's very, very saddening to see the way in which wildlife is being transported from one country to another country, and this needs to stop.
Wildlife crime and trafficking touches every part of the globe. It's really escalated, particularly in the last 20 years or so, driven by a really growing consumer demand for illicit wildlife, but also facilitated through things like the internet and the transport sector, particularly the aviation industry. The illegal wildlife trade is valued globally at around $20 billion per year, which is quite staggering. And it's not just about that profit that criminal groups are making, it's causing major risks for species and pushing some species to the edge of extinction.
Illegal wildlife trade harms the wild population of animals and is further pushing endangered species towards extinction. This triggers a negative impact on the world's ecosystems and has also been linked to disease outbreaks in some countries and regions. This also poses a threat to international security, with organised crime syndicates committing crimes.
Wildlife trafficking is connected to a wide variety of criminal activities. For example, murder on park rangers, money laundering, weapon trade. And even if you do not care about wildlife, there is a piece connected to wildlife trafficking that hits you as well.
The US Agency for International Development, USAID, co-created the Routes Partnership to bring together private sector, public sector, conservation groups and the air transport industry to help combat wildlife trafficking in the transport sector. Routes is engaged with nearly 50 companies. They've come together in a partnership that really is helping to disrupt and stop illegal wildlife trade in the air industry.
As the national carrier, we have taken it upon ourselves to ensure that as part of our policy, we look into the welfare of our national flora and fauna, which includes efforts against wildlife trafficking in Malaysia Airlines. We work very closely with Routes. They have trained our employees on how to detect wildlife, how to report, and what needs to be done as well. We do get a lot of data from them. We use this internally, and then we do a lot of risk mapping to determine what are the hotspots. And from there, we will then work with local authorities, customs, and so on and so forth in our efforts against wildlife trafficking.
Etihad Airways had shown that the airlines can make a major contribution to eradicating wildlife crimes. We have strong collaboration with Routes by providing us specific training materials for our staff in cargo, ground, and operation, as well as in in-flight crews.
Cargo plays an important part as a gatekeeper from the start to the end, where illegal imports and exports may take place from airport to airport. Etihad Aviation Group has developed an animal welfare and conservation policy, complying with all UAE and federal laws under CITES and IUCN when it comes to the transportation of wildlife.
At Kenya Airways, we have long supported wildlife conservation issues to promote better protection of endangered wildlife and to reduce the demand for illegal wildlife products.
The issue of illegal wildlife trade can be complex to our passengers, and many of them feel powerless. We have broken this barrier by working with our partners such as Kenya Airport Authority.
We have been collaborating with our stakeholders at the airport in ensuring there is a harmonized screening procedure.
Our staff are our foot soldiers, so we are giving them awareness training on what is illegal wildlife trafficking and what are the key items that they should actually be looking out for.
The incidents that we used to have before some of the efforts that are in place right now were quite many. But since this multi-agency approach has been implemented, we have had a reduction of the incidents. Wild animals need to be protected in their natural habitat.
For Schiphol, health, safety and environment is important. Schiphol implemented many actions to combat wildlife trafficking. We joined and chaired the ACI's Wildlife Trafficking Task Force. ACI is the Airports Council International, the voice of world's airports. Schiphol became involved in the Routes partnership when ACI asked us to join its newborn Wildlife Trafficking Task Force. A very important moment for us because joining and even chairing the task force provided us with important tools to take action against wildlife trafficking.
Routes has set this major platform for the air transport industry to understand and know how it can deal with wildlife trafficking across these supply chains. The tools are there, the training is there, the e-learning systems are there. So we're really grateful for those champions and the companies that have come together under the Routes partnership. And I think together we can make that lasting difference for wildlife for years to come.